Major Ernesto Che Guevara.
He is a Marxist, a soldier, a physician, and the power behind Fidel Castro.
What is the most important quality for a revolutionary to possess?
El amor.
Love.
Love.
All right, last but not least, we have the strategy for revolution. Regis Debray. It's a collection of essays on Latin America and the Latin American Revolution that was going on in the early between like 1930 and 1970. It was compiled in 1970, but it was written between 1965 and 1970. Regis Debray, he was a French Marxist, so he was able to personally witness the revolutionary movement throughout the Latin America, actually within the particular countries that were leading the way through Latin America, through the Latin American Revolution. So he was like in Bolivia, Venezuela, Cuba, and Argentina, of course. And he was eventually actually arrested by the Bolivian authorities for quote unquote aiding Che Guevara in the revolution.
En los círculos cubanos, para fomentar las ilusiones del pueblo cubano, anuncian la formación de brigadas invasoras, equipadas con revólveres y armas de corto calibre para enfrentarse con un ejército que, según las declaraciones de sus propios líderes, tiene a su disposición las armas nucleares más modernas.
And then he was released in 1970. He was able to document the fallacy of the United States' ability to stifle revolutions during its imperial domination of South America, right? All right, so
the collective and individual actions of the governments of this hemisphere to restrict trade with Cuba are defensive measures taken in response to Cuba's continued promotion of subversion and violence elsewhere in this hemisphere. We do not support or condone hit-and-run attacks against ships in the Cuban trade or against other targets in Cuba.
The U.S. before this has stifled like the Cuban uprising of 33 and 34, Bolivia's uprising in 52, Guatemala's in 54, and then Cuba came along and was like, nope, not again, we're not having this.
Son también absolutamente falsas las acusaciones de que en Venezuela se están perpetrando actos de genocidio. Es además sencillamente absurdo e intolerable que el representante de Cuba pretenda hacer juicios sobre la soberanía venezolana.
We're not having this again. We're going to form a real strategy to whoop that ass and get you out of the country. So what happens is, with all of the revolutions, the question of force and violence always had to be contemplated, right? So the question was, what form of force would the revolution adopt?
Fusilamientos, sí, hemos fusilado. Fusilamos y seguiremos fusilando. Nuestra lucha es una lucha a muerte. Patria o muerte.
You know what I'm saying? And it touches on the several revolts of the revolutions, revolutions against like the Spaniards early on, and by Native Americans and free blacks and slaves at the time throughout Latin America, which had small successes, but it really didn't have no lasting change. But all of this culminated into the strategy of how they use a strategy of what they used to eventually defeat U.S. from Cuba and stuff like that.
Así entendemos los revolucionarios cubanos nuestro deber internacionalista Así entiende nuestro pueblo sus deberes, porque entiende que el enemigo es uno, el mismo que nos ataca a nosotros en nuestras costas y en nuestras tierras, el mismo que ataca a los demás. Y por eso decimos y proclamamos que con combatientes cubanos podrá contar el movimiento revolucionario en cualquier rincón de la tierra.
This culminated, like I said, in the Che Guevara and Fidel Castro adopting this thing called the FOCO theory, where it gave the people power over landlords, money lenders, tax collectors, and police and stuff like that. And this is within the rural areas, right? So what will happen is the local the local people. I was about to say peasants, but it's not. They aren't peasants, but the local people, they were given arms, and they defended their areas, right? So with every victory, every battle and victory that they had, they would take over that specific area within these rural areas and stuff. And then from that, they will become educated. They will become healthy. They'll learn, new opportunities of how to maintain the land, and they will educate themselves, for the next generation. So that's pretty much how the FOCO work. You take over your specific territory of land, maybe a small piece of land, you take that over, and then you defend it. But at the same time, while you're defending it, you educate yourself, you get the new opportunities and take advantage of these new opportunities, and you maintain your health more so than what was going on when the political, military, economic, imperial capitalists.
Señor presidente, señores delegados, mucho se ha avanzado en el mundo en este campo, pero el imperialismo, norteamericano sobre todo, ha pretendido hacer creer que la coexistencia pacífica es de uso exclusivo de las grandes potencias de la Tierra. Cuba, señores delegados, libre y soberana, sin cadenas que la aten a nadie, sin inversiones extranjeras en su territorio, sin procónsules que orienten su política, puede hablar con la frente alta en esta asamblea y demostrar la justeza de la frase con que la bautizaron: territorio libre de América.
Were over the land. So, like I said, the thing is, with earlier revolutionaries, they waited for the opportunity to come for the right time to take action with the revolution. The difference with this one is the FOCO attracted volunteers, and the revolutionaries create the revolutionary opportunities from there. In Che Guevara's Guerrilla Warfare, which is a really good compliment to this book. I've read that. I will be doing a series on that as well. It says, Che Guevara says to consider, he wrote in the preface, that the Cuban Revolution has made 3 fundamental contributions to revolutionary strategy in Latin America. The popular forces can win a war against the army. 2, it is not always necessary to wait until all the conditions for revolutions are fulfilled. The insurrectionary center can create them. And 3, in underdeveloped America, the terrain of armed struggle must basically be the countryside. And this is, how we get the guerrilla warrior. They know their terrain. they're in their area, and they have the ability to have to ambush and have the advantage over the army and the military. My little man over here watching YouTube, he all excited. But yeah, it says and then the book goes into like, it says goes into Castroism, and that talks about like the Foucault theory and what their strategy was in order to win the revolution. It gives you like reports from actual guerrillas from the Venezuelan countryside. It gives you the problems within the revolutionary strategy with that was going on in Latin America. It gives you the role of the intellectual.
Normalize relations between Cuba and the United States, particularly in the field of trade and exchanges. As an economist, do you feel yourself that a resumption of relations of this nature would be useful or welcome for Cuba? In other words, would you like to see the relations normalized?
Not as an economist, because I have never considered myself an economist, but only an official of the Cuban government, as another Cuban. I think harmonious relations with the U.S. would be very good for us, from the economical point of view, more than in any other field, because all our industry has been established by the U.S. and primary products and repair parts that we have to make with much difficulty or to bring from other areas could come directly.
And then it gives you like interviews with Havana students, and then it tops it off with letters to Regis Debray's friends and his declaration of innocence at the end. But so like and it what it details, is really interesting to look at, because it pretty much details a lot of stuff that was going on during the battle, stuff that you may never see or may never hear about. But and then another thing I really liked about it is it shows that this was a revolution about equality for the most part. People did not want to be subjected to American imperialism, and a lot of American imperialism was based off racial hierarchy and stuff like that. That's why you had pretty much the white capitalists within these Latin American countries that owned everything, and then you had the natives of these said countries, and the black people who were a part of these countries being exploited as well. However, after this revolution, everyone is equal, and here go here's a great excerpt that describes this in the book. It says, one day in the camp, after an especially good lunch, where the usual rice, sardine, and coffee had been augmented by a monkey killed the night before and some cassava given by a 30-year-old peasant, Barlavento, a real Negro slave from somewhere near Caracas, went off to digest his lunch in his hammock, wondering out loud when he could lay down his arms to eat good meals like that every day. The joke made everybody laugh, and they all began to outdo one another in picturing the joys of civilian life. Douglas put himself in the center of the group. An orator and a mime simultaneously gave his views of the problem. No one stopped laughing, however. He says, revolution is water gushing out of the ground. There are some gentlemen who would prefer not to wet their feet. The left-wing politicians, very honorable men, they say, who would rather dam up the water by any means to hand. Elections, for example, are a good way. If Leone weren't sure of winning, then one of these gentlemen would have won. Then you see them coming toward you, Barlovento, tap you on the shoulder with a big smile. You needn't worry, Negrito, they say. You won't want your gun anymore because I am in power now. Come on, be a good chap. Hand over your gun and go home. That's the worst that can happen to a revolution. Compromise. Those leaders, they're balloons without any air in them. All they care about is losing their job. Don't forget, the real leaders of Falcone now are chaps like you, Bolivar, you, Negro Bravo, you, Aurora. It is in you that the people have confidence. It is with you that the pact has been made, because they, our peasant friends, know very well that if they are to claim back the flat land of the valley, it won't be the politicians who will get it for them. It will be you. The only power the poor can have in this country is by being armed and organized. When Fidel entered Havana, this didn't stop the Prio-Socorros, the Urruchias, and others plundering the ministries, newspapers, factories. It was just like that here after Perez Jimenez's flight in 1958. Only in Cuba, the garrison belonged to the people of the Sierra, to poor fellows like us. And that's why the rich had to leave for Miami during the final struggle of the real revolution. Why did Fidel win? He won because he hadn't laid down his arms. You can't get no equal than that, you know what I'm saying? And it can't get no more plain than that. That if you want to win a revolution, it's going to be a revolution of the people, and you can't compromise during this revolution. You know, you got to keep your arms and fight to the end. You know, it ain't going to be no compromise. So, you know, that was a good excerpt from it. And here you go, one about the role of the intellectuals. Okay, it says, the merit of an intellectual lies not in what he thinks, but in the relationship between what he thinks and what he does. In this continent, not thinking, or to be precise, not thinking about the revolution, is in all probability thinking little or erroneously. And then a moment comes, as now, when thinking is not enough, when it is essential to learn about the revolutionary struggle and the amelioration of popular conditions of life. So, in this, there's no room for you to just think about what's going on. You know what I'm saying? It's for the intellectual to be a part of the revolution. To be a part of the revolution, you have to be at the revolution. You know what I'm saying? You got to be putting your mind towards the revolution. You know, that's why it says in the book that the revolution cannot be on college campuses. You know, it has to be within the people. Fidel, he was a lawyer, you know, and Che Guevara, he was an economist. You know, very smart people, but they didn't look at themselves as above the people. You know, so that's what their revolution was about, and this is a great book to have, you know, for the future revolution. But yeah, check this joint out if you can. If not, I'll say check out Che Guevara's Guerrilla Warfare. I'll definitely be doing a video on that later on. So yeah, I hope y'all enjoy. It's your man B. I am the brand. You need to comment, like, subscribe, share, all of that stuff, you know, because we're going to be going over some really good books. Some of them may be good. Some of them I might love. Some of them I might hate, like, you know, the hard times joint, you know what I'm saying? But it's all good. We going to get to it. Hey, but yeah, it's your man B. I am the brand, coming to you with the Drum Call book reviews again. Like, subscribe, comment, share. I want to know your opinions and everything. Hit me. Peace.